There comes a time in every life when the familiar begins to feel unsettled, when the ground you've walked for years suddenly trembles beneath your feet. The conversations you once found comfort in no longer soothe you. The places that held meaning begin to feel strangely hollow. People who were once companions on your journey drift away, their presence reduced to echoes, and you wonder, what is happening? Why does everything that once felt secure now seem so uncertain? It is in these seasons that the winds of change begin to blow. They arrive quietly at first, like whispers across a still meadow, but soon they rise in strength, bending branches, rearranging landscapes, and altering everything in their path. These winds are not accidents of chance. They are the breath of God, moving with deliberate force, redefining the direction of your steps. Change can feel like loss. When the winds tear through your plans, you may see broken branches scattered where once there was order. But what if the breaking is not destruction, but preparation? What if the shifting of your life is not punishment, but promotion? Could it be that God is removing what no longer serves your purpose, so that He can clear a path for what does? Think of the seed carried on the wind. Torn from the comfort of the tree, it drifts into the unknown, tumbling, helpless. But within that uncertainty lies its destiny. For only by leaving the familiar can it land in soil rich enough to allow it to grow. The seed's journey looks chaotic, yet it is divine design. So it is with you. Many resist these winds. They dig their heels into the ground, clinging desperately to the things God is trying to shift. They pray for stillness, not realizing that stillness now would mean stagnation. The same God who calmed the storm also sent the wind that parted the Red Sea. The same God who comforts you in the valley is the one who disrupts your comfort when it no longer aligns with His will. The winds of change are not your enemy. They are your escort into destiny. Perhaps you are in that place now. Perhaps you feel as though life has pulled you from the branches you once clung to. You may feel scattered, aimless, unsure of what tomorrow holds. But what if I told you that this is exactly where God needs you? For when all you know is stripped away, your hands are finally free to grasp what He is placing before you. Look around you. Do you not sense it? Old friendships fading, opportunities closing, desires shifting. These are not random coincidences. They are holy signals. God is speaking not through thunderous voices from the sky, but through the subtle rearranging of your world. The doors that shut are His way of steering you toward the ones that are opening. The people leaving are His way of making room for those appointed to walk with you in the next season. Do not be afraid of the winds. They are carrying you where your feet could not take you. They are repositioning you into alignment with God's higher plan. If you remain where you are, you risk missing the fullness of what He has for you. But if you yield, if you let the Spirit move you, you will find yourself in places you never imagined, doing things you never thought possible, and becoming someone you never dreamed you could be. So the question before you is not, why is this happening? The question is, am I willing to trust? Trust that God knows the terrain beyond the horizon. Trust that His breath does not scatter without purpose. Trust that the winds are not here to destroy you, but to deliver you into the next chapter of your story. The winds of change are blowing. They are not meant to terrify you, but to awaken you. They are not meant to strip you of joy, but to lead you into a joy that cannot be shaken. God is redefining your path, even if the map in your hand no longer makes sense. The destination is not lost. It is simply being rewritten by divine hands. Now, let us unfold how to walk faithfully through this holy shifting. When the winds of change begin to blow, the most difficult thing is often to trust that there is a divine hand guiding them. We are quick to believe in God when the sun is shining, when the path ahead looks smooth, when everything seems to align with our desires. But what about when the storms arrive, uninvited? When the secure roof of your plans is torn away, when relationships collapse, when opportunities vanish. When opportunities vanish. In those moments, it feels as if life is spinning out of control. But here lies the truth. There is no chaos where God is concerned. Even in what looks like disorder, His hand is steady, His will deliberate, His timing exact. Consider the disciples on the Sea of Galilee, tossed by winds and waves that threatened to capsize their small boat. To them, it was panic. To Jesus, it was an opportunity to reveal His authority over the storm. He stood and rebuked the wind, and instantly the sea grew calm. That story is not merely about weather. It is about your life. What appears as random storms are opportunities for God to demonstrate His sovereignty. The very winds that terrify you are under His command. Not a gust moves without His permission. Trusting the hand behind the wind means believing that the shifts in your life are purposeful, even when you do not understand them. You may feel as though you are losing control, and in truth, you are. But is that not the essence of faith? To release control into the hands of the one who sees the end from the beginning? You were never meant to steer your life alone. The winds remind you of that. Think of how a shepherd leads his flock. Sometimes he must move them from one pasture to another. The sheep may resist, wanting to stay in the familiar field where they've grown comfortable. But the shepherd knows that the grass has grown thin, that danger may be near, that the flock must move to survive. The sheep do not understand, but the shepherd does. And so it is with you. The winds may be God's way of shifting you from a place that can no longer sustain you, even though you do not yet see the danger. This trust does not come naturally. It is forged in surrender. It comes when you kneel before God and admit, I do not know where this wind will take me, but I trust you to carry me. That act of surrender transforms fear into peace. You no longer see the storm as your enemy, but as an instrument of your Father. The winds no longer threaten to break you. They become the very force that propels you into your destiny. So do not curse the winds. Do not despise the changes that unsettle you. Instead, whisper in faith, Lord, I trust the hand behind this wind. For if He has allowed it to blow, then it will only move you toward the very place He has ordained for you. Point 2. Release what God is removing. 600 words. The winds of change not only carry you forward, they also strip away what cannot go with you. This is perhaps the most painful part of God's redirection. We are creatures of attachment. We hold tightly to people, to dreams, to habits, to places that once gave us comfort. And yet, what once blessed you may now hinder you. What once was provision may now become poison if you refuse to let go. When the wind blows through a tree, dead branches fall. They are not torn away to punish the tree, but to protect it. If they remained, they would drain life from the tree, weigh it down, and hinder new growth. So it is with you. God sees the branches in your life that no longer produce fruit. He sees the relationships that wound you, the opportunities that distract you, the habits that weaken your spirit. And in His mercy, He sends the winds to remove them. But here is where we often stumble. We try to hold on to what God is taking away. We cling to friendships that have expired, jobs that are suffocating us, lifestyles that no longer align with our calling. We beg God to restore what He is actually dismantling. Have you ever wondered why certain people walk away, no matter how much you try to hold on? why certain opportunities close, no matter how hard you strive to keep them open. It is because the winds are doing their holy work. To resist them is to resist God Himself. Releasing what God is removing requires trust, but it also requires courage. It takes courage to admit that some relationships have reached their end. It takes courage to let go of the version of yourself that once served you, but no longer fits who you are becoming. It takes courage to walk away from comfort into the unknown. Yet courage is the price of growth. The seed cannot grow into a tree if it refuses to leave the shell. Remember Lot's wife. God called her family out of Sodom, but her heart remained behind. She turned back, longing for what God had already judged, and in doing so, she turned into a pillar of salt. The lesson is clear. Clinging to what God is removing will freeze you in place. You will never enter the new if you keep mourning the old. When the winds strip something from your life, it may hurt, you may weep, you may feel abandoned, but do not misinterpret loss as cruelty. Loss in the hands of God is pruning. It is His way of ensuring that you bear greater fruit in the next season. Every goodbye is making room for a greater hello. Every closed door is preparing you for one that opens into destiny. Release is not easy, but it is necessary. If you release what God is removing, your hands will be empty enough to receive what He is giving. And what He gives will always exceed what you lost. When the winds of change blow, it is not enough to simply endure them. You must also discern where they are taking you. Change without direction can feel like chaos, but change with discernment becomes divine navigation. God does not stir the winds aimlessly. Every gust, every closed door, every shifted relationship carries meaning. The challenge lies not in whether God is speaking, but in whether we are listening. Just as light is not in whether God is speaking, but in whether we are listening. Too often we misinterpret the silence of old paths as failure, when in reality it is God signaling transition. The job that once energized you now feels like a burden. The friendship that once brought joy now drains your spirit. The ambitions that once seemed urgent now feel strangely empty. These are not random feelings. They are holy whispers. God is not cruel. He does not allow dissatisfaction to grow in your heart without reason. He uses restlessness as an alarm, warning you that the season has shifted and urging you to realign with His will. Discernment begins with stillness. You cannot hear the voice of God if your mind is cluttered with noise, if your spirit is drowned in fear, or if your heart is entangled in bitterness. The winds are loud, but within the storm is a still, small voice that says, "This is the way, walk in it." To discern the new direction, you must separate the clamor of your emotions from the clarity of His guidance. This is why prayer matters. This is why fasting matters. This is why Scripture matters. They tune your spirit to hear the frequency of God's voice. But discernment is not only about hearing, it is about interpreting. The closing of one door is not the end of your story. It is a redirection toward another. When you lose something you thought you needed, ask not only, "Why, Lord?" but "Where are you leading me instead?" The answer may not come immediately, but the signs are already forming around you. Pay attention to the nudges in your heart, the opportunities that align with your values, the unexpected conversations that ignite your spirit. These are not coincidences. They are markers on the road of redirection. Think of the Israelites in the wilderness. By day they were led by a pillar of cloud, by night by a pillar of fire. When the cloud moved, they moved. When the fire shifted, they shifted. Their journey was not about comfort. It was about obedience to the direction of God's presence. And so it must be with you. When the winds shift, you must ask, "Lord, where are you moving now? Where is your presence leading me?" Sometimes the new direction will not make sense at first. It may lead you into unfamiliar territory, toward dreams you never considered, or to people you never thought would become central in your journey. Discernment is not about understanding everything in advance. It is about trusting the one who sees beyond the horizon. If you want to walk in the new season, sharpen your spiritual senses. Ask God to open your eyes to see what others overlook, to open your ears to hear what others ignore, and to open your heart to accept what others resist. The winds of change are not here to confuse you. They are here to guide you. Discern them, and you will find that the very shifts that once frightened you are the same ones leading you directly into the arms of your destiny. There is a reason God rarely reveals the entire map of your journey. If He showed you every detail, your faith would never grow. Faith is not forged in certainty, it is forged in the unknown. The winds of change will often blow you into uncharted waters where you cannot see the shoreline. It is there, in the space between what you left behind and what you have yet to grasp, that faith must rise. Walking by faith is not about ignoring reality. It is about trusting that reality is not the final word. You may see endings, but God sees beginnings. You may see loss, but God sees preparation. The unknown feels terrifying because it strips you of control. But the truth is, you were never meant to rely on control. You were meant to rely on God. Faith in the unknown is not blind. It is anchored in the character of the one who holds the future. Consider Abraham, called by God to leave his homeland and journey to a place he did not know. He had no map, no destination he could locate on a chart, no guarantee of comfort along the way. Yet he obeyed, stepping into uncertainty with only God's promise to guide him. Abraham's legacy was not built on clarity, it was built on faith. And so it is with you. The winds of change may not reveal where you will end up, but they will reveal the God who is with you every step of the way. Faith in the unknown requires a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" begin to ask, "What if God's plan is greater than anything I could imagine?" Instead of saying, "I don't know the way," remind yourself, "I know the one who is the way." Fear magnifies uncertainty, but faith magnifies God's presence in uncertainty. You will face moments when doubt screams louder than belief, when every instinct tells you to retreat to the comfort of the known. Yet, if you choose safety over surrender, you will miss the miracle that only unfolds on the waters of faith. Remember Peter, who stepped out of the boat and walked on water. The waves were real, the storm fierce, but faith lifted his feet above what should have drowned him. The unknown did not destroy him. It became the stage for the supernatural. Faith in the unknown is not passive, it is active. It requires you to take steps when you cannot see the path, to trust provision when resources are scarce, to believe in breakthrough when evidence points to defeat. It is a daily choice to anchor your heart not in circumstances, but in the character of God. His promises are your compass, His word your anchor, His presence your assurance. The winds will blow you into places where logic cannot sustain you, where strategy cannot save you, where connections cannot carry you. And it is in those places that you will discover the depth of God's faithfulness. The unknown is not a void, it is a canvas for God to paint His glory in your life. If you dare to trust Him there, you will see that the unknown is not your enemy. It is your invitation to experience the fullness of faith. The winds of change do more than shift your surroundings. They also transform you from within. God is not merely moving you to a new place. He is reshaping who you are, redefining your identity so that you can carry the weight of the destiny He is placing upon you. Too often, we measure ourselves by what has been. the roles we once played, the titles we once carried, the opinions others formed about us. Yet when God begins to redefine your path, He also redefines who you are in His story. Think of how a potter works with clay. At first, the clay may take on one shape, but if the potter sees that the vessel will not serve the purpose intended, he reshapes it. He presses, he molds, he remakes until the vessel is fit for the higher use he has in mind. The clay does not resist. It yields to the hands of the potter. And so it must be with you. The winds of change are God's hands upon your life, not to destroy you, but to reform you into someone capable of holding greater purpose. This redefinition often begins by dismantling false identities. Perhaps you defined yourself by a relationship that is now gone. Perhaps you saw your worth in a job title, a role in your family, or the approval of certain people. When those things are removed, you may feel lost, as if your very self has been stripped away. But hear this truth. You are not what people called you, you are not what you lost, and you are not confined to who you once were. You are who God says you are. And sometimes it takes the winds of change to remind you of that. Moses once thought his identity was in Egypt's palace, raised as Pharaoh's grandson. When that crumbled, he thought his identity was as a shepherd in the wilderness. Yet God redefined him again, calling him to be a deliverer of his people. Each season stripped away a false identity to reveal the true one. In the same way, God is using these winds to strip away the labels and lies that never belonged to you. Embracing this redefinition requires humility. You must be willing to admit that the person you were yesterday cannot carry the assignment of tomorrow. You must allow God to shift your thinking, to renew your heart, to refine your character. It may feel uncomfortable because identity is deeply tied to comfort, yet transformation always begins at the edge of discomfort. Do not mourn the old version of yourself. That version was necessary for a season, but now God is calling you higher. He is calling you to step into an identity that reflects His purpose, not your past. Where others saw weakness, He sees strength. Where you saw failure, He sees preparation. Where you saw limitation, He sees potential. The winds are redefining you, not so you can simply survive, but so you can thrive in the calling He has prepared. Let the winds carry away the false names, the limiting beliefs, the broken images. Embrace the new name God is writing over you. Chosen, beloved, set apart, destined. This is not the end of you. It is the unveiling of the truest you, the one He always knew was there. When life shifts suddenly, when doors close and people leave, the natural instinct is to see it as punishment. We think, what did I do wrong? Why is God letting this happen? But the truth is, the winds of change are not a sign of God's anger. They are a sign of His preparation. The very disruptions you fear are often the groundwork for blessings you cannot yet see. Preparation often disguises itself as loss. A tree must lose its leaves in autumn to prepare for spring. The ground must lie dormant in winter to yield fruit in due season. To the untrained eye, these seasons look like death, but they are necessary cycles of preparation for new life. So it is with your journey. When God allows certain things to fall away, it is not to punish you, but to prepare you for the harvest He has destined. Joseph's story makes this truth clear. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit, forgotten by those he helped. If anyone had reason to believe he was being punished, it was Joseph. Yet every step was preparation. Each trial built resilience, humility, and wisdom that he would one day need to govern Egypt and save nations from famine. The dungeon was not punishment, it was training ground for the palace. When you see change as punishment, you fall into despair. You fight the winds, trying to anchor yourself to what God is already dismantling. But when you shift your perspective to see change as preparation, you begin to cooperate with God's hand. You begin to trust that every closed door is leading to a better one. Every loss is carving out room for greater gain. Every disappointment is shaping your heart for deeper strength. Preparation is never comfortable. It stretches you beyond what you thought you could bear. It requires you to release familiar patterns, to walk into uncertainty, to trust when you cannot trace the outcome. Yet preparation is holy, because it proves that God sees more in you than you see in yourself. He would not prepare you if He did not intend to use you. Think of David, anointed king yet sent back to tend sheep. To some that looked like rejection, but in reality it was preparation. The fields where he fought lions and bears were the same fields that trained him for the battlefield with Goliath. Without that preparation, he would not have had the courage or the skill to stand before giants. Your season of change is the same. What feels like a setback is actually setting you up for the strength you'll need when your moment comes. When you see the winds rising, do not cry out in fear, "Lord, why are you punishing me?" Instead, whisper in faith, "Lord, thank you for preparing me." For every shift, every ending, every disruption is a rehearsal for the glory yet to be revealed in your life. What looks like breaking is building. What feels like loss is equipping. The winds are not tearing you apart. They are crafting you into the vessel God needs you to be for the destiny ahead. There comes a moment when discernment has done its work, when preparation has refined you, when the winds have shifted everything around you. That is the moment you must step forward. Too often, people remain standing on the edge of change, staring into the unknown, paralyzed by fear. They see the path God has illuminated, but hesitate, waiting for absolute certainty before moving. But faith is not built on certainty, it is built on trust. And there comes a time when the only way forward is to walk boldly into the season God has already prepared. To walk boldly does not mean you will not feel afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move despite it. Boldness is not arrogance, it is confidence rooted in the assurance that God has gone before you. The Red Sea did not part until the Israelites stepped into it. The walls of Jericho did not fall until Joshua's army marched around them. Miracles rarely precede action, they follow obedience. If you wait until you feel ready, you will never step into the new. Boldness means saying, "I may not have all the answers, but I have the one who is the answer." The enemy of boldness is hesitation. When you hesitate too long, you risk losing momentum. The winds of change do not blow forever. They are a divine window, an appointed time. When God opens a door, you must walk through it. When He nudges you to release the old, you must not linger in mourning. To hesitate is to risk turning back, like Israel longing for Egypt even after being freed. They were liberated, but their fear of the unknown made them crave their old chains. Boldness refuses to return to bondage when freedom has been offered. Walking boldly also means embracing the fact that not everyone will understand your new season. Some will criticize your steps, question your decisions, even accuse you of abandoning the old ways too quickly. But boldness means valuing God's approval over human applause. Noah built an ark while everyone mocked him, but when the rain came, it was his obedience that saved lives. Likewise, your boldness may make you look foolish now, but in time it will reveal the wisdom of God's plan. Walking boldly does not mean walking alone. God's Spirit will not abandon you when you step into the unknown. In fact, it is in the unknown that His presence becomes most evident. Boldness is simply aligning your steps with the promise that says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. When you step forward, heaven steps with you. So rise up. Stop staring at the closed doors and start walking through the open ones. Stop rehearsing the pain of the past and start speaking the promises of the future. The winds of change have not come to leave you stranded. They have come to propel you into a season of destiny. All that remains is for you to walk boldly into it. The winds of change are blowing. They are not accidents of life or cruel storms of fate. They are the breath of God, sweeping through your world with purpose. They call you to trust the hand behind them, to release what no longer serves your journey, to discern the subtle directions of His Spirit, to strengthen your faith in the unknown, to embrace the redefinition of who you are, and to see every disruption as preparation, not punishment. And now the final call. Walk boldly into the season before you. Do not let fear chain you to what God has already left behind. Do not linger at the threshold, waiting for certainty that will never come. Boldness is not found in perfect knowledge. It is found in perfect trust. Look back and you will see His faithfulness. Look within and you will find His Spirit. Look ahead and you will glimpse the horizon of His promises. The winds are not here to scatter you. They are here to carry you. The God who redefines paths is the same God who redefines people. You are not who you once were, and you are not where you once stood. You are moving, growing, becoming. So step forward, beloved. Step forward into the season of promise, into the future He has written for you. The winds are blowing, but they are not against you. They are for you. They are lifting you, guiding you, propelling you. And as you walk into the unknown with courage, you will discover that every change was not loss, but love. Not punishment, but preparation. Not ending, but beginning. The winds of change are blowing. Walk boldly, for God is redefining your path.